Every great empire has ruled the world with a weapon. For the British, it was the navy, vast fleets that carried their flag to every corner of the globe. For the Mongols, it was the horse, lightning-fast armies sweeping across continents in a storm of conquest. But for the United States, the most powerful weapon ever built doesn't roar, fly, or fire. It prints. The American weapon is the dollar. Unlike tanks or warships, it doesn't destroy cities, it shapes them. It doesn't conquer land, it commands it. And without ever firing a shot, it can decide who trades, who prospers, and who kneels. The story of this silent empire begins humbly in 1792, when the young United States passed the Coinage Act. That law gave birth to the US dollar, a coin backed by silver and gold, promising real value in a world flooded with worthless paper. At first, it was just a local currency, used by farmers, merchants, and shopkeepers within the borders of a new republic. No one then could have imagined it would one day become the heartbeat of global finance. But history had plans. The real rise of the dollar didn't happen in Washington. It happened on the ashes of a world war. By 1945, Europe and Asia lay in ruins. Factories were rubble, economies bankrupt, and governments desperate to rebuild. And there stood America, untouched, industrially mighty, and rich beyond measure. In that moment, the dollar stopped being just America's money. It became the world's money. In the summer of 1944, while the world was still burning, representatives from 44 allied nations gathered in a quiet corner of New Hampshire, a place called Bretton Woods. Their mission: to rebuild a shattered global economy and make sure another Great Depression never happened again. Inside that conference hall, amid maps, ledgers, and exhaustion from years of war, a new world order quietly took shape. The United States, untouched by destruction and overflowing with gold reserves, stood at the center of it all. And in that moment, the US dollar became more than a national currency. It became the foundation of the global financial system. Under the Bretton Woods Agreement, other countries would tie their currencies to the dollar, while the dollar itself was tied to gold, fixed at $35 an ounce. It was an elegant promise. Every dollar in the world could be trusted, because behind it stood gold and the economic might of America. For the first time in human history, a single currency sat at the heart of world trade. Nations needed dollars to buy goods, pay debts, and stabilize their economies. And the more the world depended on the dollar, the stronger the United States became. It was a self-feeding loop. Global trust built American power, and American power reinforced global trust. No empire had ever ruled this way before. No soldiers. No fleets. Just faith in green paper. The dollar's influence spread into every corner of global trade. Oil, wheat, gold, copper. Nearly every major commodity was priced in dollars. If a country wanted to import fuel, build roads, or feed its people, it needed dollars first. That constant demand gave Washington an invisible hand over the world's economy. With a shift in interest rates or a change in policy, the U.S. could ripple through markets, raise or sink currencies, and decide, without a single shot fired, who thrived and who struggled. It wasn't an empire of territory. It was an empire of trust, liquidity, and dependence. And it all began with a meeting in a quiet New England town. The dollar's reach goes far beyond trade and markets. It's not just a currency, it's leverage. With it, the United States can reward allies, punish rivals, and shape global behavior without ever deploying a single soldier. Control the world's money, and you control the choices nations can make. When Washington locks a country out of the dollar system, it's like cutting off oxygen. Banks freeze. Trade halts. Economies suffocate. No bombs. No blockades. Just silence and consequences. Take Iran and North Korea. Both have faced years of financial isolation, unable to use the dollar for even basic transactions. Without access to global banking, they struggle to import food, medicine, or sell oil. It's warfare, but fought with spreadsheets, not missiles. This kind of power isn't loud. It doesn't make headlines in the same way a battle does. Yet it can bring a nation to its knees. When Iraq invaded Kuwait in 1990, the U.S. didn't just send troops, it froze Iraq's dollar assets and blocked its oil trade. The result? A crippled economy before the first tank even moved. The same tactic echoed decades later. Between 2018 and 2020, Iran once again felt the weight of U.S. sanctions. Its oil exports collapsed, inflation soared, and the rial fell to historic lows. And in 2022, when Russia faced partial expulsion from the dollar-based system after invading Ukraine, its financial networks seized up overnight. Billions in assets vanished. Trade routes broke. The message was clear: defy the dollar, and you pay the price. This is the quiet art of financial warfare, precise, invisible, and devastatingly effective. Today, nearly 60% of the world's foreign reserves are held in US dollars. Most countries borrow, trade, and store their wealth in it. Oil, gold, wheat, copper, the essential fuels of civilization, are priced in dollars. So even nations that disagree with America still need its currency to survive. It's a global web of dependency. Every deal, every loan, every trade line ties back to the same center, Washington. And that's the real genius of this modern empire: control without conquest, dominance without destruction. A world governed not by armies, but by balance sheets. An empire held together by trust, liquidity, and fear of exclusion. Behind the scenes of global finance lies a quieter form of control, one built not on soldiers or treaties, but on access. Through its influence over institutions like the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank, the United States can shape the financial lifelines of nations. Loans, bailouts, and credit lines often come with conditions, policies written in the language of economics, but carrying the weight of politics. To access the dollar, many countries must accept the terms. And those terms, more often than not, align with Washington's interests. The dollar, then, isn't just a medium of exchange. It's a system of power, a silent instrument of persuasion that governs through trust and dependency. Yet, like every empire, this one faces challengers. China and Russia have spent years trying to loosen the dollar's grip, building trade networks in their own currencies, creating alternative payment systems, and storing reserves in gold instead of green. New technologies, from cryptocurrencies to central bank digital currencies, promise independence from dollar-dominated finance. But even with all these efforts, the dollar still sits at the center of the world's economy. Its roots run too deep. It prices the world's commodities, backs global loans, and anchors more than half of the planet's reserves. For now, there is no true replacement. The dollar's power, however, rests on one fragile foundation: belief. Not in gold, not in guns, but in confidence. The world trusts that the United States will honor its debts, protect its markets, and preserve stability. That faith, intangible yet immense, is what keeps the system alive. If that trust ever cracks, the consequences would echo through every stock exchange, every bank, and every household on Earth. Because when faith fades, money loses its meaning. The story of the dollar reveals a deeper truth about power in the modern world. Control doesn't always wear a uniform. Sometimes, it's printed on paper and passed hand to hand, shaping decisions in silence. Through this single currency, the United States can reward allies, isolate adversaries, and influence nations without firing a single shot. It's power without conquest, authority built on liquidity, not land. And it may be the most effective empire the world has ever seen. But with great dominance comes great fragility. A single misstep, political chaos, reckless spending, or a crisis of trust could send tremors across the global economy. The same currency that binds the world together could just as easily pull it apart. Understanding the dollar's journey isn't just about money, it's about understanding modern civilization itself. Because in our age, wars are no longer fought only with weapons. They're fought with markets, credit, and confidence. History has shown again and again, whoever controls the currency, controls the world. And that is why the story of the dollar is, in many ways, the story of power itself. So if you want to uncover how money became might, how finance replaced armies, and how the future of power may once again shift, stay with us. Subscribe for more deep dives into the hidden forces that shape our world, where history, money, and power collide. Because history doesn't just repeat, it reveals what comes next.